What's up, everyone? Jeff from Lewis Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab here. We are going to talk today about dad training or training as a dad. There's a lot of stuff that we are going to cover here. I know it looks like a lot of information, but I promise you this is simple stuff more than anything. That word simple we're going to keep coming back to. That if you follow this, it is going to help you not only from just a physical standpoint. If you are someone that has to work out just from the mental side of it, like that's how I am, like it's going to help you from that standpoint. But more importantly, the whole goal as we get older is, and really especially like as you get to the point where you have kids and things like that, is you can have goals, but we need to go about it. You can have goals, you should have goals, but you need to go about it a certain way. Now, what I will not say is that the point of this video is not meant to be oh, I'm so special because I'm busy all the time with kids and work and whatnot, and I work out, I'm so special. It's not. That's not the point of this. And it's not, I don't want this to be, it's not geared towards those kind of people that do that either. Not there's anything wrong with that, teach their own. But for me, like, it's all about what goes on in the background more than anything. Of your ability to show up, not only for your workouts, but everything else that goes into life. Especially, again, obviously if you're a father, but not if you're a father, if you have a high demanding job, if you own your own business, like there's a lot. We're going to come back to this concept over here, but there's a lot that goes into that. And again, I truly want this to be for the people that their goal is not just to, post their stuff online and say, look how good I am and whatnot. It's for those that working out it's still a priority, but there are other priorities more than anything. So before we can jump into this here more than anything, a couple like crucial things that I want to talk about here, because it's going to keep coming back. Sleeping. Anyone that's got young kids know that sleep is not ideal. So, a couple things on that. If you can get at least 6 hours, preferably 8, great. That's best case scenario. But that is not always the reality of it. So, if you can't get 6 consistent hours, straight hours of sleep, you just need to be mindful of there's going to be some other things that something's going to have to give. You cannot have poor sleep patterns and try to really just push it ultra hard in your workouts. Essentially the common phrase of that is you're burning a candle at both ends with a blowtorch in the middle. That will only get you so far. You will get to a point where, one, your workouts just significantly plateau. A worst case scenario, you're trying to work out, and then you get hurt, and now you can't work out for a while. I've said it before, and I've said it again. Nobody cares how hard you can work out on one day. You shouldn't care how hard you work out on one day. It is all about being in the right position and the right program that allows you to keep coming back and working out day after day after day to allow you to go live your life. And this is the big thing here that a lot of this is coming back down to is you want to respect the bucket of life. So what is the bucket of life? I'm going to go to this corner up here. Here's your bucket. Let's pretend there's no top on there. On this bucket here, you have family. On this bucket here, you have work. On this bucket here, you have finances. And then this is kind of like, we'll just say everything else. And that is where working out typically falls into. So what do I mean by that? There are going to be periods and phases of life. And what I'll say, guys, I don't have this all figured out. I've been a parent for, maybe almost 4 years and whatnot, so I'm still figuring this stuff out. But like what we want to be mindful of is that you have to look at this a certain way. You can't train necessarily like you used to when you were 20 and didn't have kids and whatnot, which is okay. People think when they can't do that it's a problem. It's not a problem. That's just kind of how life goes more than anything, how the body typically responds as we get older. So everything else, and again, we'll just put working out in there. Pardon my terrible handwriting here. There are going to be periods where, hey, this family or work here, we'll just say, work takes up even more like that. So now you have even less room in your bucket for other stuff. So we need to be mindful of is if you have these other things, these important life things taking up, you have to modify your workouts more than anything. Because again, the whole goal is you being able to stay healthy and keep coming back for more. If you keep going to the point where you just burn it to the ground, I promise you, it is not going to be able to hold up for a long period of time. And that's just the reality of it. And that's what I want this to be. I want this to kind of, this whole whiteboard talk, I want it to be in the pretext of we are living in reality. We're not living in a social media world where everything looks great online and whatnot. We are living in reality. So that's the important thing there of respecting, I like to call it the bucket of life, okay? And then your kind of main 5 movements, you have a push, pull, squat, hinge, carry. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what each lift goes into that and whatnot. If you really have questions about that, look it up online. There's probably some stuff on my page. But we keep it very basic from that standpoint, okay? So now we get into the thick of it here. Biggest thing you want to be thinking about that I hear all the time is, I don't have time. Well, you can find some time. Workouts, less than 30 minutes. And there's a lot of little intricacies that go into that more than anything. And sometimes, honestly, my workouts is 15, 20 minutes at most. Would I like to maybe do more? Sure. But it gets enough done where maybe I have only one 30-minute workout a week and I only have time for a 15 or 20-minute workout on the other sides of the week. So we have to be very mindful of that. And what's important to note is this 30 minutes should include warming up and cooling down. And that brings me to my next point. Cut out the nonsense of having 40-minute mobility routines. It's also my high school athletes all the time and college athletes, but especially for adults, we just don't have time. Most people don't have time, nor at the end of the day do you really want to do a massive mobility routine. One, it gets boring after a certain amount of time more than anything, but keep your warm-up simple. The other side of this here is people will tell me, well, I have to do my prehab and rehab stuff in my warm-up and whatnot. Do a very basic warm-up that is based off of these movements here. So perfect example. You get one set of push-ups, a pull, one set of pull-ups or a hanging knee raise from a pull-up bar, one set of goblet squats, one set of kettlebell RDLs or swings, and then maybe one set of a light carry more than anything. Boom, that's 5 things right there. That probably takes you 5 minutes in total from a warm-up standpoint. Now you get into your main lift. So just get warmed up and use lighter sets of your lifts as part of your warm. It's going to help you allow you to accumulate more volume as well. But for those that have a history of certain injuries and whatnot, and they have to do their pre-ab, rehab exercises, which are important, just do it as your intraset recovery. So perfect example. If I have, I've had a groin injury, adductor strain, tendinopathy in the past, adductor tendinopathy, not a groin strain. But I've had some groin issues there. So if I trap bar deadlift, instead of just taking a full minute of no rest in between, I'll hit some groin isometrics in between and whatnot. And boom, it doesn't extend my workout time. It honestly creates a little bit of a capacity component because you have to keep some movement going. Obviously, an isometric is not very taxing from a cardiovascular standpoint, but it keeps you moving more than anything. And that's kind of where you can include some of that in there more than anything. So there's that. This part here, total body lifting 3 times a week. Not to say, listen, if you have time to lift more than 3 times a week, sure, go for it and whatnot. I wouldn't do 5 total body lifts a week. I would break it up into an upper-lower split more than anything. But for most people that are busy and just have a lot going on, 3 total body lifts a week is plenty. And again, we are living based off of these 5 movement characteristics here. And you might not do all of them every session, but you might have them kind of sprinkled in throughout of different pieces more than anything. Or maybe just have a lot of that. You're kind of getting a lot of that, your squat and your hinge work as your warm-up versus a main lift and whatnot. So just be mindful of how we go about, picking and choosing with that. And again, the reason I'm not doing specific programs on the board right now is because it looks different for everyone. Like that's the important thing more than anything, is that it looks different for everyone. Obviously, if you have questions on a certain programming, reach out and we can go from there. But this is a lot of just general information that for most people will take them in the place that they need to go to more than anything. This is the big one, keeping body fat levels in check. And there's a couple things I want to talk on here. Listen, I have been guilty of a fly-by chicken nugget more than anything. Oh, some leftover chicken. Yeah, I'll take one and fly by and whatnot. Listen, you're going to have some stuff like that, and we're going to talk down this last part here. But it's important we just don't kind of let things just fly off the rails more than anything. We have to keep our body fat levels in check. Now, the biggest thing I see here is people like, okay, well, if I got to keep my body fat levels in check, I got to go run. For a majority of people, not everyone, there are some volume beasts out there that can handle it. For a majority of people, if you start trying to do a bunch of lifting, you start adding in a lot of running during the week, enough to keep body fat levels in check, you're going to get to a point, not all people, but most people will get to a point, it's just something is going to have to give, or you're going to get overloaded really quickly. So the easiest way to go about this is walk. Go on Amazon, buy a $150 walking treadmill, get a weight vest if you can tolerate it, and just walk. Whether that is, hey, you want to take 15 minutes at the end of your lift, so it's going to send you a little bit more. You want to take 15 minutes after your lift to just walk? Great, do that. Or you want to say, hey, your days that you're not lifting, this is what I do. My days that I'm not lifting, I slap a weight vest on, and I go walk for 20 to 30 minutes at a decent clip, just steady state cardio, getting your steps in. When I was younger, I used to kind of say, that's not going to be enough. No, that can't be anything and whatnot. But I got to a point where I tried to keep a lot of running volume up while lifting, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, if I want my running to go up, then I have to drop back on lifting. You can't have the best of both worlds. It's just a natural part of things as we get older, unless you are like super elite athlete. Those are the exception, not the rule for majority of people. Again, this is for the dads who just want to be able to train, to look good, feel good, move good, and just again, just live their life more than anything without feeling like they're getting blown up by their lifts more than anything. So do not underestimate walking. If you are someone that is really like, you're looking at this, you're like, my God, I'm not doing anything. This is so much to do right out of the gate. Block all of this out. Block these first three, and this part down here, and just focus on walking, the nutrition aspect, and getting good sleep, and hydrating too. So if that is you, where you're looking at this, you haven't done anything in years, and you want to be able to get back into it, but stay into it, walk, eat properly, and sleep. Okay? So that brings us to our next point. But again, going back to this, like, honestly, if you've never run before, I shouldn't say never. I will say never. I'm very likely never going to recommend someone, I want you to start running to keep your body fat levels in check if they've never run before. Running is a very stressful, if you are not prepared for, impact-based movement. And that can load someone up, overload them really quickly. So do not underestimate the power of walking, either 3 to 4 times a week of 30 minutes or 15 minutes at the end of your workout. And then the other days you're getting 15 minutes. Just get your steps in. The 10,000 step mark, it might be a lot for a lot of people right out of the chute, but it's a good goal to have of like a plus or minus 2,000, around 8 to 10,000 steps. For someone that doesn't walk at all, just getting 6 to 8,000 steps a day is going to have a massive benefit right out of the gate. This last part here, don't eat like a jerk. You can find some other words from there, but just don't eat like a jerk, except for sometimes. That's the important thing here. The more, anyone that can tell you this, even myself, like, the more I try to restrict everything from my diet, the more I want that stuff to a degree. I'm not going to get into macros, micros, all that stuff right now. Like, that's, for most people, that is a bit too advanced of counting calories. Like, for someone that is just wanting to get back in shape, it's all just making smart food choices more than anything. Listen, there'll be plenty of times at the end of the night, I'll have a cookie. Why not? I enjoy it. But I'm not having multiple. I'm not having it every night and whatnot. You do need to allow yourself, again, this comes back to the living in reality, not online social media world. You do need to allow yourself to enjoy food. That's a big part of life for many people. It is normal to get enjoyment from that stuff, but we have to do it within reason more than anything. And that brings my next question of, when you're younger, you can out-train a bad diet. For majority of people, as we get older, you are not going to be able to out-train a bad diet. And just, you won't feel good from a training standpoint more than anything. That's one thing I didn't appreciate until as I started getting older and just away from my 20s more than anything, is I would be able to eat anything I wanted to. I can go train and feel great and whatnot. Now, if I have a heavy amount of, whether it's pasta, whatever it is, and I still eat that stuff, but I just know the next day I'm going to feel a little bit sluggish more than anything. Maybe just not at my kind of like the level I want to operate at from a training standpoint more than anything. So don't eat like a jerk, but listen, enjoy yourself. I'm not going to sit here and say you have to get rid of everything that is, not healthy. Now listen, if you need a week or two of that to kind of get it as an on-ramp, sure, get rid of all that stuff, but just start to develop that mindset of like, listen, I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit. If you want to have a glass of wine on Fridays or Saturdays, sure. Like, if that gives you joy and you be able to enjoy life, I want you to be able to do that. But just know we do have to make some smart choices on the other times of the week. It's not just a pass of doing a full cheat day, which is just going to set people back more than anything, and going from there. So again, I hope that it just simplifies things more than anything. There's a lot of nonsense out there. If there's someone giving you advice that doesn't, have kids and whatnot, like, either make sure they've trained a lot of people that have had kids and have noticed trends, or if they don't, just probably don't listen to them, because they aren't looking at this in a realistic way more than anything. It is, for most people, if you just focus on getting good sleep, which is a massive component of fat loss. I'm not going to get into the specifics of hormones and all that stuff, but sleeping and proper sleep will have a massive effect on fat loss in a positive way. The more sleep you get, the better you're going to keep body fat levels in check, the less hungry you're going to be to a degree. You walk a lot, you keep your nutrition in check, you lift 3 times a week, and you just keep everything else simple. That is going to turn the dial for so many people. Whether your goal is, hey, you could still be a very competitive lifter or whatever it is you want to be within these ranges. But if you're just someone that wants to just be able to, hey, I want to be able to pick my kids up, I want to be able to roll around on the floor, which is tough until you start having to do it with kids, and just go about living your life without having to feel beat up from your lifts. That's the other thing. So with this lifting and whatnot, I want you leaving a lifting session. I should put that on there. I want you leaving your lift feeling invigorated. You should not leave your lifts feeling like, good Lord, I feel like I have nothing in the tank, I don't have any energy, and you're getting buried for 2 to 3 days. That is not smart training. Don't let people on online tell you that. It does no good if you are sore for 3 to 4 days after a lift. That's just, listen, when you're first doing stuff, yes, you're going to be sore for some stuff. But if that's a consistent trend, something needs to be taken care of. But again, keep it simple. These are some very good general framework. If you have questions on more like the specific programming side of things for you, like that's what we'll do online sometimes for some people. But for most people, this is going to be a good overview of how to go about looking at this. And I have our Back to Basics program online. It is very much in line with this, where the goals are 3 lifts a week. You get a lot of walking in. Do you have a nightly mobility routine? Yes, if you want it or if you need it. But the warm-up is very simple. You get right into your lifts. You have a couple accessories, and you're done. And if you can't get it done in 30 minutes, then we modify it. If there's certain things, like if I get to 30 minutes and I still have a couple things still left to do and whatnot, I don't do it. Maybe I'll do it the next day, and we'll go from there. But you just can't sweat the little stuff from that standpoint. It's, as long as you're getting in and getting the work done, that's the most important thing. So there'll be some more stuff I put out in the future that's kind of like a little more specific on each one of these, most likely in terms of structure and so on and so forth. But again, if you have questions on this for yourself or for others and whatnot, leave them below in the comment section and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.